Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense. No, none taken.
That is right, none taken. I am the Movie Moron, and this is the Movie Moron podcast, and I am your host, Easton Moore.
I'd like to purchase some of your finest beer, please.
I would. Very much would. And then with us over here to the right is our brand new part-time co-host. He's been a guest a couple times, but brand new coming on for the first time as a co-host, Brandon.
Do you want an autograph or something?
Wow.
It's coming on a little strong, asking for an autograph for their first show as a co-host, but I guess warranted. And then, our all-time guest who's been around for 3 years, Tristen.
I'm all yours.
Oh.
Okay.
Spicy.
Yeah, leave that for a little later, I guess. Come on. Those were all DC drops because we're doing, I guess, a DC movie. So,
I guess.
We're doing a Blue Beetle. But beforehand, there's going to be new artwork in the podcast room, so I wanted to show it.
Look at that.
Because a friend bought it for me as a gift.
Gorgeous.
It's my boy Porco Rosso. He's my favorite. Just moved up to my number one favorite movie on Letterboxd. So.
Ooh.
Wow. Michael Keaton's other superhero.
Is he really? Is he Porco Rosso? Can never figure out who the American cast is because on Letterboxd they have the Japanese cast, and I always watch them on English, so I have to actually look. And every time I always forget to look who does all the Porco Rosso stuff. But we just watched a movie with the main pirate. We watched The Pacifier, and he's the wrestler.
Oh, Brad Garrett.
Yeah.
AKA Big Brother from Everybody Loves Raymond.
Yes. Well, we watched The Pacifier on vacation because I guess out of state, meaning out of the U.S., we just went out of the U.S. We went to Jamaica for a vacation. Yeah. And apparently half of the streaming services and Vudu and everything doesn't work out of the U.S.
Okay.
So, the only thing we could watch was Netflix and Disney Plus. And Netflix was out of...
You're freaking me out.
Yeah, I know.
I'm sorry, is that a bug? It's huge.
Okay.
That's a grasshopper.
Yeah. So all that I saw was I was looking at Easton, and it was like a shot out of a horror movie.
Yes.
Just you slowly moved into frame, looking at something.
Yeah. No, I had the same. I had the same view. And
it's a big boy.
I always freak out because I hear things through my headphones, and I'm like, okay, someone's breaking into our house. So she was giving me those vibes, but no, it's just a little grasshopper chilling in our hallway.
I think that's a cricket.
That's the same thing.
Grasshoppers are green and nicer. Sorry,
I feel like grasshoppers are meaner. They're spikier.
But do you only feel that way because of A Bug's Life?
No, I just feel that way because I feel like they have spikier legs, and so they cut you.
I think the color makes them more friendly.
Okay, if that's the case, then you would love butterflies.
I
roasted.
Don't.
She hates them actually. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a story for another podcast. But why
fair.
the animosity towards butterflies?
I guess when we watch Blue Butterfly instead of Blue Beetle, we'll go over it.
Okay.
No, it's
I
just
was like, I'll keep it to myself if I need to.
they're just agile.
No, they're just so fast.
Yeah, they're agile.
I'm like, it just freaks me out.
Okay.
I don't like bugs in general, but butterflies, they just. I don't know. It just
And
freaks me
if
out.
you actually look at them close, they do look kind of creepy.
Moths are terrifying.
I know that
hate
too.
They're very
moths.
close. Yeah, I can't stand a moth.
Yeah. But we went into a butterfly dome.
Omaha,
like one of those
Omaha
sanctuary
Zoo.
things you can walk
Yes.
through.
Omaha
Yes.
Zoo has
Yes.
Yeah, so we went to that one, and
The Omaha Zoo is gorgeous, by the way.
Freak me out, man.
Yeah.
They just freak me out so bad. And then there's Easton behind me, tickling my arm, make me think butterflies are getting on me. I'm screaming.
because they tell you if they fly on you, that's totally fine. Just be still and don't crush it, and you're good. And so they do sometimes land on you, and you just
Easton's
gotta.
mom was laughing at me.
Oh yeah, I think everyone was laughing.
Everyone was probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. That was really fun. I'm glad we got into it.
But we're doing Blue Beetle, the new DC movie. And I don't really know much of this cast, to be honest, other than our boy George Lopez. I haven't really seen any other people.
Susan Sarandon's pretty popular.
Yeah, Susan Sarandon's great.
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
The only person from the lead cast, and I'm sure we'll get into this, that I know is the young man that plays Blue Beetle himself. He's
Zolo?
apparently on Cobra Kai. That's the big thing that he's known for prior to this. But
which is a big thing.
It is a big thing.
Cobra Kai's
it's
huge.
a very big thing. Yeah. I've never seen it myself, but
I haven't either.
I was curious what else he had done, so I was looking that up today.
That makes sense.
So yeah, that's why we did all the DC drops, because we're doing the DC movie Blue Beetle, which may or may not be a part of the new James Gunn. James Gunn. Yeah, James Gunn DCU. I think all that's still up in the air, whether or not this and Shazam are kind of a part of it. We don't know yet, but they still. Oh, and the Flash, which I haven't seen yet. And
I'll be surprised if we see Ezra Miller in anything after.
They really
they
kept pushing it.
I know, but
no, I haven't seen it, and I really don't want to with how bad of reviews I've seen. And then the people that say that it's fine, and I'm like, I don't believe you.
It's very bad.
Yeah, I know. Everyone.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much because I don't want my friends that liked it to be mad at me. But yeah, I won't say anything further. So yeah, let's get right into reviewing Blue Beetle. How did you guys like it? Just general thoughts of Blue Beetle.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was perfectly fine. It's the kind of thing that like people talk about superhero fatigue a lot, and the reason why I think it's true for at least me as an individual is that whenever it was solely focused on the family, I lit up. I was like, this is excellent. I loved the chemistry between the family. I thought they were really charismatic, really funny. And then the second I saw a super suit or super villain or super power, I got very schluffy. I was like, okay, let's just get to the next scene with the family. But I thought it was that's not to say that I thought it was bad. It's just not the kind of thing that I find myself going to see all that much anymore.
Yeah. Tristen?
Yeah. I thought it was bad, but I really liked it. I actually really did enjoy it. I was just like, this is not great film. And this is my own opinion, even though I heard you and Austin talking about it earlier, but I did think this individually, okay? That it was very cliche, and it's like every trope. I'm not one to like guess what's going to happen next and it actually happen. First of all, I don't really guess during movies, but when I do, it either is because it's very obvious and it does happen, or I'm like totally wrong. But it was very obvious in the several times that I guessed what was going to happen.
Yeah.
And the opening scene, the acting in the opening scene was so horrible. Like literally so bad. In the snow. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, when they were like using a laser to open up a giant thing that they never explained, and that I'm sure will come up in future Blue Beetle adventures. But
anyway,
I'm sure that'll happen. Future Blue Beetle adventures. This movie made $43 million on a $110 million budget, so I doubt. So far, that's just opening
so
weekend.
Far.
But usually, if you don't make your money first weekend, you're not looking a sequel down the road. So
anyway, it was really bad.
It was rough.
Susan Sarandon in the beginning, I'm so sorry, but it was horrible.
Just at the beginning?
She is sleepwalking through this movie. Susan Sarandon, at various points, I was like, she has no idea where she is, what her character is.
I was like,
God bless her. She's an Oscar-winning actress. She doesn't have to care about this. But
it's also just like,
you can tell.
A lot of these scenes, I'm sure she was just standing in a green screen or a blue screen room, so she probably didn't know where she was.
She's also been acting for like a super long time.
Yes. Yeah, she's a legend. She can sleepwalk through whatever she wants.
Yeah, but it was rough.
It was obvious.
It was, yes. And I was like, oh no, if this is the rest of the movie, this is going to be a long ride. But no, I loved the family stuff. I thought it was great. Although we did make a connection to, I think you did.
Oh, yeah. No, this is definitely just Fast and Furious in a superhero movie. Yeah. I mean,
the family aspect.
I gotta set this family a cut above our Fast family.
What?
In terms of like believability.
But the amount of times they said, it's just they've got the same trope of we are going to overcome because of family.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, I still loved it.
The amount of times family was said, I think the over-under would be set at 10 and it would destroy that.
Who needs things when you have family, says the $150 million blockbuster superhero movie, which is more than a little ironic.
Yeah, exactly. No, but I had a good time. I had a fun time. Yeah.
No.
I'm not lying.
No, I don't. Okay. I don't think you are either. I also did enjoy it. However, I do think it was just every single standard superhero trope you could put into a movie. They just did. Yeah. And what makes it still enjoyable is that at least it was done well.
Sure.
It's just it wasn't any you never got anything new. Yeah. And I think that's its biggest problem. Nothing was really original to it. I do think the actual suit takeover thing was probably the most fun part. That was the most interesting, unique thing.
Freaking out in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great.
But then it also lasted way too long with the flying part, and then it got tropey again with how it took over and all that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I don't think the CGI was aggressively bad, which is something we've gotten with a lot of superhero movies, and was glad that we got away from that because this is a very high action film with a lot of CGI, and it doesn't look like dog water, which was very nice. I was glad to not.
It's actually bright and colorful and visually interesting, which a lot of superhero movies now aren't.
Yeah, and the ones that are it's almost like the movie's a goof.
Yeah.
Thinking of, Love and Thunder or...
yeah.
I mean, Wakanda Forever is also very bright and over... But, also the CGIs usually aren't very good as well.
Sure.
And I think that, I never once was watching this movie ooh, that CGI look...
Yeah.
For a while, superhero movies, I've been this does not look good. And this one, I was yeah, no, it looks fine. I'm not actively thinking about how bad the CGI is.
Sure.
And that's just what I want. I don't want to be thinking about how actively bad it is.
There's one VFX shot in this movie that did send up my radar a little bit, and it is the CG flamingos that are outside. Oh my gosh! Yes. Did you notice those?
Yes, I did.
I don't know why I was looking for them. Maybe that is a criticism of the movie, but when I saw I thought I noticed them the first time we cut to the exterior of that house, which I'm sure we'll get into a little bit more later. But the first time we cut to the exterior of that house, I was like, those are fake flamingos. And then we cut away and I was like, maybe I didn't see what I thought I did. And then we cut to that same establishing shot again. And then I saw it and I was like, those are CG flamingos.
Because the only CGI part I noticed was the stairs in that building.
Yes. I thought the textures were pretty smooth. It was just the way that they
it was just
moved.
the animation.
Yeah.
And I was that was the only time I was oof. But I was but also you're not going to practically make that.
No.
So I was that's understandable. But it also didn't look great. But I was also what I just don't get is sometimes how they don't do any kind of practical effects. But I was no, you're not going to, that has to be CGI.
Sure.
And it's also in context a little bit.
And it's also a little nothing. That was just the only thing. Yeah. So,
and honestly, one of the things that I did notice throughout the movie is that I think we talked about this a little bit during our Fast X episode, but one of the biggest detriments to CG in these big blockbusters, especially in the last 10, 15 years, is that they will do large-scale things practically, but then they will muddy them up with digital effects or set extensions or things like that to the point that the practical effects just don't look real.
Yeah.
And throughout the fights in this movie, schluffy as they made me, I did notice that a lot of the explosions and impacts and things like that were all practical, and they looked really good. They weren't muddied up.
Yeah.
You didn't see a bunch of additives that took away from it until we get into the very end. But I mean, it's the end of a superhero movie, so it's going to be lots of cartoon people in super suits.
Yeah, it was definitely that. Yeah. I was not a fan of the last fight, but so yeah, I did actually thought that was fine, but yeah, it is just superhero tropes over and over again. Also, the acting, I think, is one of the worst parts of the movie. I think the maid kid did fine. I thought the sister was awful.
Really?
Really?
You thought she was awful?
I thought she was awful.
I didn't hate anybody in the family. I thought they were all fun.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
The friend that went with us hated the whole family. He thought they all did terrible.
Really?
But I think he was kind of just a hater on the film.
How
in general.
dare he talk about George Lopez that way?
He said George
Yeah.
Lopez was the only one he liked, just because it's like this is the first time he's seen him since, like.
I loved that he was in this movie.
Yeah, his character was obviously ridiculous, but.
But it was perfect for him.
Yeah, no, he was totally fine. But yes, the mom and the sister, I was not a fan of. I thought
Yeah,
I thought
I thought the mom was a little rough.
yeah, and I thought the Nana was
Sometimes.
great. She was obviously a bit, but I thought she was a good one.
Sure.
And I thought the dad at least was good, and it did seem to be much more supposed to be a father son thing. So at least he did a good enough job. So the major family person did the major lifting when it comes to acting there, but really tropey, also really cringy with some of the dialogue, especially with the just how they're supposed to do the commentary between the poor and the rich. Some of that stuff was kind of I don't know, some of it felt a little out of touch, but then they kind of got me in the middle of it.
See, one of my biggest anxieties going into the movie was that so much of the marketing and a lot of the sort of talking head stuff ahead of the movie coming out was about how this is the first Latino superhero in a big budget blockbuster. And so I was worried. I was like, oh, it's corporate speak for come see our movie because we are good people, because we created a Latino superhero. But something that I was really impressed by was how consequential his ethnicity is to the actual stakes of the movie. Like, it's something that's baked into the fabric of not just the character, but also all the relationships around him. It seems to actually mean something. And I was like, okay, well, that's okay. And then at a certain point, it just all becomes kind of a muddy metaphor for gentrification.
Yeah.
And it doesn't go where I was hoping it was going to go, which I'm sure we'll talk about when we get into spoilers. But
and it does get a little stereotypical, I think, at times,
here and there,
especially towards the end. Not necessarily in a bad way. It just kind of gets cliche with, like, this is a Hispanic family, and we're just going to have all the Hispanic tropes. Like,
sure.
Yeah, they just kind of have some generic Hispanic tropes in there thrown at the end that didn't feel like they added anything. They just kind of threw it in.
Gotcha.
In my opinion. Yeah, also, where was this supposed to even be? What city was this supposed to be?
So it was like
Palmero City.
Yeah, I chalked it up to just being like a DC
made up city,
LA transplant.
Okay, but they're not in the U.S.
I think they're in the U.S.
They are supposed to be.
He went to
Gotham City.
He went to law school in Gotham. So, and I mean, that's the thing, is that, like, the U.S. map in DC is just like so confusing, because, like, in some movies, it seems like every filmmaker that has their hands on a DC property, they make whoever that superhero's city is, they make it what they grew up around or where they live. So, like, Gotham has been like Chicago, and it's also been New York, and it's been like Boston, and it's been all of these places. So you never really know where Gotham is, except for Metropolis. Metropolis is always New York.
Yeah. So, but it's not supposed to be a legitimate city on the U.S., right? Or, like, it's not a legitimate city.
Like a real city?
No. It's not supposed to be a real city.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So they made up a city.
Yes.
See, because they never. I actually thought that this wasn't supposed to be in the U.S. Like, they were in, like, Panama or Mexico or Cuba, and because they shipped them off to law school.
But they also make a point of mentioning that the family has crossed the border at one point. So
that's true. Yeah. They
so
did. I
from then I just assumed that it was in
that's fair.
The U.S. Yeah.
So, okay, yeah, that's fair. It just yeah.
And see, that's where this stuff gets muddy. Is that
There's one line in there, I guess.
You have to make it the U.S. for the commentary to work, but that creates a disconnect between the commentary and the subject, because it's not really the U.S. that we're seeing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making any sense at all? It
there
creates
was
kind of a logic disconnect that.
It also it seemed like it was overseas or not U.S. based stuff because of how absolutely insane and illegal the things that this company was doing, and that's usually something that so it made it seem like okay, we have an offshore business that doesn't have to deal with U.S. laws, and that's how we're getting away with this stuff.
They mentioned,
and that's how a lot of movies do that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh yeah, we're doing all these illegal things, but it's out of the U.S., so
sure,
the government can't come after us. They
kept referring to it as the Keys, so maybe it was supposed to be like a Florida transplant, something like that.
I have no idea what the Keys were.
They also mentioned at one point that they reference Cuba.
That's why they
reference Cuba as being a real place. That island that they go to that gets blown to smithereens. They spoilers, but they mention that it is that it's like an extension of Cuba. So that also makes it confusing.
Yeah.
Hey.
Anyways,
I don't know.
These are things we don't know.
Yeah.
I know this is what you tune into this podcast to figure out, but
thankfully I at least got my answered question of is it a real city? And that's what I was like, I'm pretty sure it's not. But I just wanted to make sure. Cuz I'm like this also does not look like any city that's anything remotely real. Cuz when you first pull up to it, I'm like, "Oh, he's going to Dubai." That's what this is supposed to be.
Okay.
Because that's really the only place that's that crazy when it comes to its skyscrapers and technology and stuff like that. And then, it very quickly was not that. So, yeah. But I also didn't know much about this movie because it wasn't.
I didn't know squat about it.
I feel like this movie was extremely undermarketed.
I didn't even know it was DC.
Really? See,
You've been seeing it all over?
Well, yeah, I've been seeing it all over. I've not been seeing online marketing or anything like that, but every time we go to the movies, we see a poster and a trailer in front of whatever we're seeing.
Feel like that's just, I don't when you go to a movie theater, I don't consider that really marketing because they're just going to show the movies they're showing.
Gotcha.
So I think of marketing of okay, what do I see on TV? What do I see on Twitter? What do I see on YouTube? What do I see on TikTok? What do I see people talking about? What do I see paid promotions on all of those websites?
No one is talking about this movie.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Well, I do follow a lot of movie people on Twitter, and so I have seen, and all I was seeing was super positive stuff, and so I went in with fairly higher expectations, and it kind of
what I've been seeing more than anything is shock from people. I've been seeing a lot of people that went in expecting it to be terrible, saying that they were surprised by how
at least
good it was.
Yeah. Well, it has an insanely high audience Rotten Tomato score with a 93%.
Yeah.
Which is very, 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 very generous.
And the thing is, I was thinking about this earlier. When I was jotting down some notes about the movie and the question of whether or not I would recommend it. And I think that whether or not someone is willing to recommend it is kind of moot with something like Blue Beetle, because whether or not you want to see it by virtue of what it is. You know what I mean? At this point with superhero movies, you're either interested in seeing it or you're not.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know that anybody is going to have to sell you necessarily. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I do feel like this is a little bit more of an independent project. So I feel like there may be a little bit of do I really need to go see this independent superhero movie? Whereas if you're Guardians 3,
separate, it seemingly separate from a larger narrative.
Yeah. This isn't connected to any other DC project specifically. So but when people go watch Shang-Chi or Guardians 3 or Wakanda, they're like, oh, I have to go watch this because this is a line of movies leading up to something.
I gotcha.
And so I feel like those it's pretty much impossible to sell someone on because MCU people are going to go watch an MCU movie or not. And obviously the bigger ones like Guardians 3 are going to draw more people than
and to that
Shang-Chi,
to that end, the opposite must also be true. If someone is just not interested in the sort of thing that Blue Beetle is, nothing that you say to them is going to make them interested.
Yeah. And if they're interested, nothing is going to make them uninterested.
Yeah. People know what they want.
Yeah. But if you're in between, that's what we're here for. And the spoiler free.
Mm-hmm.
So my overall general thoughts are I still did have a good amount of I had a fun time in the theater. I did feel like it ran a little bit long. I did think that, not by much, but I did get myself towards the end thinking, okay, can we speed this along just a tad bit and get this over? And yeah, extremely predictable with most of its stuff. And yeah, I think that's most of my general thoughts. Do you guys have any other general thoughts?
Not really. No.
Okay. All right. This does try to do some of the music stuff that Guardians does, and I think it does really flop hard.
I thought it was so funny. Sorry, I'm yelling. When George Lopez finally shows up and his song has like a cowbell in it and kind of the beat of Lowrider. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I guess I didn't notice that.
I didn't notice it
either. It sounded so similar to Lowrider, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool.
Yeah. I don't remember that at all. But okay, last thing I do have to say, this movie has an insane amount of things just happen because they have to. And I think that's the worst part of the movie is people just do things because they have to for the movie to progress. There doesn't seem to be a lot of like legitimate reasoning or like motivation behind their decisions. It's just this person happens to be able to do this thing so that we can get this thing because we need this thing to get to this other part to get this thing. And like,
there's one glaring thing that I thought was super predictable, super obvious, and should happen that I'll talk about when we get into spoilers.
Okay.
And then it doesn't, and I could not believe it. It has to do with the end. I'll talk about it when we get to spoilers, but don't let me forget because... Well, I won't forget because I was incensed at the end of the movie that this didn't happen. Okay. Well, I think that is it with our general thoughts. So we're gonna give recommendations. Even though Brandon just went on a spiel of how our recommendations don't matter. But I feel like we're still gonna do it because we want to. Yeah. And then we'll take a short little break or not. We'll see if the ad works. I'm told that it doesn't. And then we'll be right back for the spoiler part. So, do you recommend watching this movie? Sure.
Oh, and you can say like in theaters, streaming. I mean, buy it on Blu-ray.
When it goes to HBO Max, by all means, I think.
Yeah.
It's if you're interested in superhero movies, it's worth your time. And if you're that interested, then you're probably going to see it anyway.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was. I had a fun time. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is definitely something you can miss in the theater and wait for it to come out. Rent it on, if you're still a Redbox person, rent it on Redbox for Friday night. Wait for it to go to HBO Max.
When you order your DVD from Netflix.
Yes. Yeah. They don't do that anymore, Brandon. Okay.
Oh, do they not? I'm sorry.
Unfortunately, they do not.
Now I'm out of touch.
Wait for it to come out to your library and use your library card to go get it for free.
They still do that, Easton.
I know. I am aware. I need to do it more because they have everything.
They have Upgrade at the library.
I know. That's what I'm saying. They have like everything.
I'm contributing to
Never mind. Go get Upgrade from the library. Don't get this.
If you walk away with anything, please go to your local library and rent Upgrade
for free. But no, I think that this was a perfectly good family movie to watch on like a Friday night. I think everyone will be at least entertained.
You could take grandma and grandpa. You could take mom and dad. You got the littles. They're all gonna love it.
Everyone sit around the couch, make some popcorn for 25 cents instead of $12, and have fun.
There you go.
Have fun at home watching this. I would recommend watching this at home, and I think you'll have a good time. You may scoff at some of the dumb, but hey, that's okay. All right, that's the end of our recommendations. We'll be right back, and then we'll do the spoiler part of the review.
I'll be back.
All right, we're back after that short little break. Now we're getting into spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie yet and you care about spoilers, now's the time to pause and come back after you've seen Blue Beetle, whether that's in theaters or in HBO Max when it's on it in 2 months. So... okay, let's get into the spoilers. Anything particularly we want to start out with? I know we talked about a lot of predictability throughout the movie and just cliches, so we can get into kind of specifics into those that,
It's kind of the weird thing. There's not really much to spoil because to Tristan's point, going into the movie, you've got the whole road laid out in front of you. But the obvious thing that I had mentioned before is, how do they not end this movie with that family moving into the mansion with the Blue Beetle lair?
Yeah.
How does they get their home destroyed?
Yeah.
Disastrously, and the dad dies, which I have to confess, I cried.
Oh, I did too.
I did not like the movie whatsoever. Not whatsoever, but I didn't like the movie, and I wasn't liking it up to that point. But I did cry.
So I mean, but let's get something straight. Just because a movie makes you cry does not make it good.
100%.
There are movie. It is. I'm not going to say it's easy, but it is not extraordinarily difficult to create an emotional moment with people that you've seen on the screen and get you to cry, because we are human beings that have empathy.
Killing dad is an easy way to get there.
And it's a term that I did not coin, but it's been called emotional terrorism in movies. It's it's something that happens in movies, and sometimes it's a perfectly fine thing. You want a movie to create some sort of emotion out of you, but because it does that, does not inherently make it good. Yeah. I cried a lot of movies as well. Not like weep, but I tear up during movies all the time. Does not usually mean that they're good. I teared up during this movie. Same way. I don't know if it was the dad necessarily. I think there was a time later on. When they all got together and they said, we can cry now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
that was a tough one.
Yeah.
So it's still about the father's death.
I thought that the movie earned that. I thought that up to that point, a cliche as it was, I thought like it didn't feel cheap to me, I guess is my point. Like I thought that the movie had adequately earned that moment, and it made narrative sense. Like, I mean, like you're charting a course on a map. It makes complete sense. Yeah. But I do not understand how they don't get the mansion.
So that's funny that's what you took it. I thought it went exactly where it was going to go. Like, because I was like, oh, she's going to just buy them a new building. It doesn't matter that their building's going to be, from the moment it like starts and they're saying that their house is going to be taken away. And then they meet and they kind of have like a small little fling for a quarter of a second. I'm like, oh, like she is going to buy it. Like she's going to buy it. She's going to save the house. Yeah. And then after they like really became a thing and then the house fire, I'm like, this doesn't even matter because she's just going to pay for the new house anyway. Sure. And same with the truck, George Lopez's truck.
And that's kind of what I got left with. I was like, we have a multi-billionaire that's in love with your son/grandson, and you bought a truck and you're going to fix up their house. And that's and a promise to not gentrify the neighborhood. A promise that she cannot keep. Like that's
well, she owns the business.
Well, sure, but like who's to say someone else won't come in and buy up that land?
Their business was the one that was buying the land.
Yeah.
So
and all of that is, I'm being cynical, movie guy right now, but at the same time I thought that the really easy layup at the end of the movie was she comes in and she's like, well, I'm not going to be able to fix up your house, and then we're all supposed to be like, oh no. And she goes, but I guess we'll have to settle for this. And then here's the keys to our old mansion that she says earlier in the movie has been sitting empty for most of her life. Give them that house.
I just felt like they set up so much, like how much the family loved that house and all that. Sure. So that would be my guess of why they just kept that, because and I also wanted, I assume that they wanted to say that like living in these neighborhoods is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And I think I feel like that. I'm just maybe trying to justify the movie for them.
And they do make a major point of people, not things, over and over and over again. But that would have been, it just would have made so much sense.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I totally get where you're coming from. But I do,
because now it just looks like she's hoarding that house that has a lair that he needs.
Yeah, true.
I'm sure he'll use it in the movie that we'll never get.
Blue Beetle 2 or Blue Beetle, the HBO Max series or something. Yeah.
But I do find it extremely hilarious that she waited till the end to say all this, and not just like, not like during the middle of this, like, oh, hey, like, don't worry about your car. Like, I will totally get you a new one. And like, well, like this first time they go to their house and she learns all this information, she doesn't be like, oh, I'm so sorry this is happening to you. I'll make sure they don't take your house.
Sure.
She just says, "I'm sorry, I didn't know about the beetle thing," and like, I thought that was a little rough, because they're trying to make her out to be this like good person.
Sure.
And I'm not saying she isn't, but that was just a layup that they missed.
Yeah.
Of her like being this person, like just being this nice person up front, not just doing this nice thing because she wants to bang Blue Beetle.
That's a big thing with like with characters like archetypes like Jenny, is that basically being anti-business or anti-old money are easy ways to kind of communicate those things, which they do in her case a little bit. She doesn't seem to be anti-cord industries or whatever. She's anti-her.
Using it for weapons.
Yeah,
using it for weapons.
Yeah. And that's fine and good. Honestly, I wish we would have learned a little bit more about her.
Yeah.
Like what does she want?
What does she do for the company?
Yeah, we didn't learn
She
much.
does charity, is what they said. That was their blanket statement.
Oh,
is that,
the aunt said that when they were fighting.
Yeah.
Right?
She just works for she does charity events. Like she works for the charity department. That's it. Yeah. And now she owns the company.
Cord's many industries charity.
Well, you got to get that tax write-off somehow.
I don't know about you guys, but talking predictability, jumping back just a little bit, the second that they showed that it's not the very first shot of the movie, but it's one of the first shots when they showed what's his name, the heavy, Susan Sarandon's right hand. He's got that like metal thing in the back of his neck. I was like, okay, well they're gonna do the end of the first Iron Man where Blue Beetle is Iron Man and what's his name is Ironmonger, and they're gonna fight.
Yeah. Well, and if you saw any kind of promotion about this movie, you saw that Blue Beetle was basically just being used like Iron Man.
Pretty much.
He acted the exact same way. I guess they took Blue Beetle to just be Jarvis. And
yeah,
they didn't get enough out of those wings. I thought those wings were really cool. And every time he flies, it's mostly just like sound waves propelling him.
Yeah,
and
they also just didn't use the tentacle things.
No.
Speaking about flying, at the very end when those explosions are going off,
oh my gosh,
and he's like, "How do I get into the bug?"
I couldn't. Tristan and I both just looked at each other like, "No way! Is he running and jumping?"
Yeah,
when he's got this.
Literally, you have wings.
He can fly at subsonic. Is that the right term? Supersonic.
Yeah.
Speed, and he can't.
And it's designed to protect the host.
Oh, no.
It's designed to kick in
also
when there's immediate.
I don't know if that's comic book accurate or whatever. I don't really know. I don't know. But that whole bit was dumb. That he couldn't just use the suit when he needed to throughout the movie.
And then it's at a certain point just kind of dropped.
Yeah.
Like he says at one point, we're not killers, and then the suit goes, all right, we're not going to use any lethal force ever again. And then that, I guess, was supposed to be the moment where we learn, okay, the suit is listening to him now for some reason.
Yeah.
But the suit is very, like, it's very
inconsistent,
plot devicey.
Yeah.
It's
the whole movie is.
We need him to be in danger at this moment, so the suit has to reboot. The suit has to. The suit isn't listening to him. The suit is, X, Y, and Z. It's just kind of it does whatever. I think you mentioned this earlier, Easton. It does whatever it needs to do for the movie to have a sort of drama facade.
The whole movie is just that. Everything is just happening so that the plot can continue to go for as long as they want it to.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think you guys were talking about this too after we got out of the movie. But
after I spent 15 minutes looking for my phone that just disappeared in the chair.
Yeah, when we were walking to the car. And I just lost it. I don't remember what it was.
We were talking about.
Oh, I remember.
Oh,
okay, sorry. I'm sorry. Okay, how he's like, I'm not a killer. And then his whole family comes in and just
murks everybody.
Murders
literally everyone
everybody.
with like no care in the world. His Nana's like laughing at all of them.
His Nana is a sociopath.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and I understand the joke is death to imperialists and she fought in the revolution and all that sort of stuff. That's the joke. I get that. That's great. And it's a genuinely funny bit. However, it completely upends the
moral superiority of these people.
And that's and isn't that the whole point of a superhero story, is that what separates heroes and villains is their sense of morality and all that. And I don't know, like, he actively chooses to not kill when he could at that fight outside the house, and then Nana is just like, nope, I'm gonna turn them into Swiss cheese.
And that's why, that's just another thing that I think it's just the movie that, like, they needed him not to kill so that they could have him
fight him in the end.
Yeah.
And I thought it was funny too that, like, he sees his whole family shooting everybody, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna kill now too." When it's like, you were so adamant not to do that, and now all of a sudden you're okay with it.
They got the idea for Nana with a machine gun, and then and that, you know what I mean. And then they didn't really.
And she's not the only one that kills. George Lopez absolutely just through the heart stomps.
But
to be fair, we never heard him kind of wax poetic about, not killing and
no. I'm just saying that,
makes
like,
a little bit more sense.
The whole point is just the family doesn't mind killing, and he does.
Yeah,
sure.
Is what I think she's getting, and I just think they just needed him not to kill for the story to progress, because Blue Beetle's supposed to be he would have wiped and killed everyone.
Sure.
So you have to have him not kill, or else there's no one to oppose.
Yeah.
And the only thing that can oppose him is another beetle. Mm-hmm. So you have to have him not kill, which is the only reason why they get away, which is the only reason why he gets kidnapped, because he won't kill them. So he gets kidnapped. Mm-hmm. And then now it's two different beetles, and now there's a real fight.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a plot of, like, they needed him not to kill to keep the movie going. And I think it's just bad writing, but I think the movie in general is poorly written.
Jumping back to that heavy real quick, the second time I think that I saw him open up that locket, I was like, he's killing Susan Sarandon for sure.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no question.
Yeah.
And can we talk about how brutal her death is? That he, like, grabs her by, like, the collar and drags her into open flames before exploding. That was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, you don't see or hear anything though. So.
I know, but still, just like the concept is so rad. Like, it was so crazy. But
it was not to say too much of the friend that came and watched it with us, but he could not stand the fact that I can't think of his name. The right-hand man.
I'm sorry to do this to us, but he's getting closer.
The cricket?
Can you just kill him?
If he gets close, yes.
He is.
Where is he?
Okay.
It's right there.
I see him. Whoever, the right-hand man, the person that he fights at the very end, very end, turns good, quote unquote, kind of, because he realizes what Susan Sarandon, which her name is Victoria,
Vicky,
realizes what she has done to him his entire life and killed his mother and all that. Demi, go eat it.
Those flashbacks were very confusing. I was like, there were a number of points where I was like, okay, is that...
Sorry.
Get him, Easton. Get him. Now we got a snack for Demi.
Yeah, he will eat it, actually.
Am I just an idiot that found those flashbacks very confusing? Like, I couldn't tell if that was his kid or if that was him.
That was him.
I think it was him.
But there were also, they showed a flashback of him having his head shaved and, like, going off to war. And I gathered that was him. Yeah. And then after those, sequentially, we cut to a different flashback of a kid that I couldn't tell if it was the same kid with long hair. And I was like, okay, is that his son and that's his wife, or is that him? And now I'm realizing, yes, that was him as a small child, but he has a locket of him and his mom.
Yeah, like, it was his mom's locket that he took off of her corpse.
Okay, I guess I missed that.
Okay, yeah.
I also have another thing to admit. I was actively falling asleep at various times during this movie.
That's so funny.
So that means that was moment I missed.
Okay. So yeah, during the flashbacks, it's the last one.
Okay.
You see him go and pick it up. So I think it was just like flashbacks that were not, they weren't chronological.
I was about to say that.
And that's why it is confusing. Like
Yes.
they made it confusing, and I don't know why they made it confusing.
And why did he just all of a sudden remember those things? Had those memories been suppressed, or was he so deep in the
I think
in
they
the
had
world,
been
in this
suppressed
world that he had forgotten
because he had been tortured and all this. So I think they somehow found a way to suppress him, and then the beetle took them out.
Okay.
The beetle, like
when they were transferring the juice.
But isn't the beetle just objective? Isn't the beetle just like it's not good or bad? Isn't that the whole thing? Because the beetle was about to just murk everybody when he first got the thing.
I think the love for his family.
And that's what transferred?
That is what, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
And when he gets all that power after his family,
and
because
he gets those wings.
Yeah.
That's how you know he's more powerful because
Yeah.
the things get bigger.
I wanted to audibly groan when he got stronger when he thought George Lopez died.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, bro, this guy killed your father, basically, indirectly, I guess. And he's trying to kill your whole family, and he's trying to kill you.
And that's not reason enough.
That's not reason enough. You need the anger of
if you want the. That's an excellent point, Easton. If you want, just on a screenwriting level, if you want that moment where he loses himself and he goes too far and he starts forgetting who he is and all this sort of stuff, it's that that moment of when the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man, when Spider-Man pushes the guy out the window, if you want that moment, if you want that beat, totally fine. That's totally fine. You can build that into a character's arc. However, I can't stand it when movies get like wishy-washy about justifications and they're like, is his father dying enough of a reason for him to lose his cool? So no, it's not. We have to have a fake out death, or we have to have an actual death or something like that to justify him being angry. I hate that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it maybe would have made more sense if he had gone and shot his uncle, then his uncle was under rubble, and then he had turned around and I really want to I don't know why I can't remember the heavy's name, but he walks over and is he's gonna finish him off, and then he musters up the strength to get up to fight one last time and goes all out, and that would make more sense. But it just is no, it was just more family, I've got it was just another note to be, I win because family.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And wasn't
because family. That's how you get there.
And now the Blue Beetle is in the family too.
Yes. Just doesn't get the house.
Nope.
Just doesn't get the Blue Beetle's house. It makes no sense to me. But I did one little beat that I thought was cute and charming and that I genuinely didn't see coming was I have only ever seen the Blue Beetle comic book character as just a white guy with a half mask, a pretty typical superhero look. And I thought they were going to completely disregard that, previous iterations of the character altogether that didn't have this fancy, amulet or extraterrestrial thing that gave him powers. I thought they were just going to completely ignore that. So I thought it was kind of cute and charming that Blue Beetle is another superhero that existed in another time. That the internal logic of it makes sense.
Well, and that her father was Blue Beetle without the beetle.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a cool idea.
And I liked George Lopez's his character, Uncle Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
I liked his little monologue of what that meant to the Hispanic community.
Yeah.
Of how he felt like they were he was a superhero that fought for them.
Yeah.
I thought all of that was was really cool.
Batman is a fascist.
I don't know if I love.
I like that. I thought that was fun. It seems like something a cranky uncle that exists in this world would think. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right when I heard that line, I was like, "Ooh, DC fans are not going to be happy with that line."
Yeah. They're not happy about anything. They'll get over it.
It's fair. If it's not Zack Snyder, they don't like it.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
But
if they are upset, rest in the blessed assurance that everyone else is wrong. They often do, so it's completely fine.
But no, I thought that was really cool. And yeah, the cliffhanger at the end was very stupid, and we all knew it.
Maybe I'm just a dumb dummy, but like when Dad popped back up on the computer, I was like, huh. I didn't care, but I was like, right on. That's great.
Well, it just said that he had left and he never came back.
Yeah.
And so
I had genuinely forgotten about it. Which
in the
movie,
extra scene.
Yeah. I had genuinely forgotten about it, which the movie was banking on. My assumption was that at some point it was going to be revealed that, like when I first heard that, I was like, okay, well, Susan Sarandon murdered her dad, and that's going to be revealed at the 11th hour, and it's going to make Jenny upset, and she's going to, beat her up or something like that. But
the amount of people that did not kill Victoria is way too high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They should have killed her so much sooner.
Wild. What was I going to say? I remember now. There was one moment that felt like gratuitously violent to me, which was when that like technician that she kept misnaming, when he gets killed, it's wild.
Yeah.
Like his blood sprays all over that little window, and then the implication is that he got like crushed or blown to pieces or something. I was like, I don't know. That's a little much. And it's also his big triumphant moment was also a little much for a character that we don't know or care about.
The only thing I hated about it was the fact that it was just another one of those things where you have this person finally overcome the like tyrannical like boss, and then but it amounts to nothing because the person just shoots the door down in 2 seconds.
Yes.
So like it needs to meet, like, if you're going to do that, that's fine, but it has to be like something that actually makes a difference.
You know what would have been even more
also, the fact that he was just staring at the door for 10 seconds afterwards was a...
Yeah. It would have been a little bit more interesting if Blue Beetle was stuck in that room with what's his name, and he had to like keep him. He had to like Spider-Man style keep him at bay, knowing that he couldn't fight him hand to hand while his battery was recharging, and then he could use his Blue Beetle-ness to like blow the door open and then try and escape. I thought that would have been fun. Also, I wanted to make a quick shout out to genuinely to the director of this movie. I can't remember his name right off the top of my head, but he made a wonderful movie called Charm City Kings. It's this little small scale drama that's very, very good. And if you are not interested in Blue Beetle, please watch Charm City Kings instead. It is very, very good. It's from Easton's looking at it right now, from like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that.
No, just 2020.
Really? Oh, okay. I thought it was longer ago than that.
That's 3 years ago. So
yeah,
you weren't that
3
far
years
off.
ago. But yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful little flick that's definitely worth your time.
Nothing on. It's not streaming on any of the services I own, so not Netflix, Disney, Amazon Prime.
I think it's on.
Hulu.
I think it's on HBO Max. If I'm not mistaken,
it would show up on here if I, because I have HBO Max, and it should show up on here. Because I have Patreon, but
gotcha. I vaguely remember streaming it somewhere, but if not, it's definitely worth the $4.99 or $5.99 or whatever that it costs to rent it. But it's Charm City Kings, very, very good. Apologies for derailing us.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I don't see any streaming options.
If nothing else, I'm excited that he got a really big paycheck that he deserves.
Yeah. Okay, we'll put that right here on watch list.
That also annoyed me about that scene with Sanchez sacrificing himself. His name is Jose. Sorry.
De La Cruz, I think he said his actual last name is.
Yeah, his last name.
Yeah.
I just remember the first name he said was Jose. I'm like, oh.
That's funny that
he's
the
in
whole
something
movie.
else.
The whole movie is about him not being Sanchez. Like his name isn't Sanchez. Guess what he's credited as?
He's credited as Sanchez.
Dr. Sanchez. He's in Puss in Boots, The Internship, Blue Beetle, Truth or Dare, Status Update, The Body.
Oh, he's got 2 movies coming out this week because he's in. Am I seeing Strays?
Yeah,
the movie Strays. Yeah, good for him.
Oh,
what's the actor's name?
8 Bodies. Harvey Golian. Yeah, Harvey Golian.
Right on. Good for you, man.
I'm saying that correctly.
Okay, something that irritated me about him and about the right-hand guy is how stinking long it took them to turn on her.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
the justification
what's the point?
the justification for Sanchez is thin.
Very thin. Yeah.
Very
it's just,
thin.
Like I said, it's just another thing that they do to, like, it just has to happen for the plot.
Yeah.
And so
it's
she's not smart enough to do it, and they have to have a smart guru guy that's actually kind of an idiot.
Yeah. And I'm totally fine with that being the reason for him turning on her. Totally fine with that. Because it's indicative of other things about her, right? It's indicative of the fact that she's a racist, that she doesn't see other races and ethnicities as being on her sort of level.
Well, I don't think she sees anybody, like nobody.
Sure,
yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
I think that it's just the obvious disrespect of continuously misnaming him is how we're meant to interpret that, and that's totally fine. We didn't spend nearly enough time with him for me to be invested at all in his big triumphant moment. I did not care one bit,
and that's why I said it just has to mean more for it to really land.
Yes,
and it didn't do anything in the slightest, so it feels like a wasted.
Maybe you have obviously we cut to lots of close-ups of him where he's clearly conflicted and he doesn't feel comfortable with this whole process, and he's not like a super villainous guy. However, he gets really close to the inner circle before he starts having that conflict. And if we wanted that moment, establish earlier on that it's whatever, it's fear. She has something she's holding over his head to keep him in place, or to, it's something like that. Give me a justification for why he's still there.
Or keep giving him raises.
Yeah. Maybe it's maybe there's a moment where Blue Beetle is strung up like he is at one point in that lab, and before they start extracting his beetle
milking him
energy, before they start milking him.
If you watch TMNT, you get that reference.
I can gotcha. If ahead of that he has this little Incredibles moment where it literally is a moment in the Incredibles when they're strung up and somebody starts pleading to Mirage to let them go. Maybe we have a moment between Blue Beetle and that scientist where he's like, please, you have to let me go, she's going to do horrible things to me, she's going to kill me or whatever, and then he makes a point about why he's there. Maybe it's just an offhand comment about the pay, or this is the only place I can go where my skill set actually gets paid for, or something like that. It would have been on theme, it would have made sense, and maybe they shot that moment and it got cut, but I mean,
I was like, for me, all they had to do was when he had that little moment of doubt, while they were all there in the room, she was like, look, if we get this done, you'll get a $2 million bonus. Boom. One line. Sure. And that gives you some sort of justification of okay, he's doing and he's gonna go through this moral, and he obviously doesn't feel morally right about doing it. However, he's gonna suppress that because he wants to make a shit ton of money. And that if there is a different motive there, they didn't show it. And that's just an easy way to at least show a reason. Sure. And then guess what? It also makes it a little bit better that he turns it down, turns down the money just to help him leave.
Tiny bit.
Yeah.
It's you know what it is? It's something. It's something that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Do we have anything else spoiler wise that we really want to talk about?
No.
Okay. So I did really like the suit thing going, the beetle hitting him in the face and crawling around him.
Oh, that was great. That was a lot of fun.
It disappearing and not knowing where it went.
It went up his
ass.
Yeah.
That was great.
I do think the family was still a little bit rough in that scene.
See, I loved him. I loved the family.
Yeah. Like I said, for me, it was still a little rough. But then, but I still thought that whole scene was really cool, and I thought it was different than most other superhero suit ups for the first time.
Sure.
But then, once he flew off, and the suit just kind of like took over, but like was still stupid while it took over. I was like, that was just another thing. Like, that felt like just the Iron Man bit of like,
sure.
But that's Iron Man's. He's supposed to be learning how to use it. This was like Blue Beetle was just doing it for him.
Yeah.
And I wish there was a little bit more of a like Blue Beetle was like giving him the power to try, and that's why he was failing. And then like maybe it cuts the bus in half because he's not good enough, and then it just has to protect him. So then it does it. But they just, I don't know. Just I didn't like that piece of it. So really good front half of it, and then kind of botched in the second half.
Yeah.
But I mentioned it, so I wanted to follow up. Okay, well, I guess we can end with ratings real quick, and then we will end today's episode. And I think next week is Gran Turismo, and if Bottoms hits our AMC theaters, I'll be watching it. I think Tristen will be
very excited for Bottoms.
Yeah.
Like
but yeah, Brandon, what do you rate Blue Beetle out of 5
I would give it a solid 2.5.
Okay.
Out of 5. I thought it was perfectly fine.
Yep.
I originally thought 2.5, but I really like it. So I'm like, I know this movie sucks, but I love it, so I put it really high. But I'm feeling the opposite of that this time. So I'll stick with 2.5.
Okay. It's like usually you rate off of like versus.
Yeah, I know,
stuff,
but
so.
I'm not feeling that this time.
I was gonna do 3, and I've talked myself down to 2.5. So.
Okay.
That's where I'll.
This is a very milquetoast middle of the road.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. I feel like I haven't had a 2.5 in a long time. So 2.5 is still I enjoy it. I think I've said that throughout the podcast. 2.5 is still I enjoy it, but it's nothing great. Yep. 2 is where I start getting to bad territory.
Gotcha.
In my personal rankings, maybe sometime we'll have to run through your how your rating system works.
See, I typically don't do star ratings. I really like my Letterboxd is
it like and unlike?
Yeah, pretty much.
You're one of the likes and unlikes.
I just don't. I don't know. I guess I don't really think of it that way. But
well, we're not going to force you to do anything. That's true. I was going to say we're not going to force you to do stars if you don't want to. It's like you could be the one guy that just does like no like. But okay. All right, so thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back next week for at least Gran Turismo, starring Orlando Bloom, and
how dare you disrespect David Harbour?
And David Harbour, that's true.
Chief Hopper, how dare you?
Yeah. And probably also talk Beatles. So yeah, have a good one, guys.
Hey, moron!
You talking to me? You talking to me?
And there seems to be no sign of intelligent life anywhere.
Hello?
What an idiot!
Well, what do you expect? I'm the movie moron.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard.
Don't call me stupid.
Oh, right! To call you stupid would be an insult to stupid people! I've known sheep that could outwit you.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Man, you are one pathetic loser. No offense. No, none taken.